You know, something we haven't talked about a lot recently is all the recent stuff from Apple. Are you guys updating to your El Capitan? All that? How's that going?
I'm not. I'm letting other
No,
people. I'm letting other people find those problems. I did start shopping for a laptop though. Like I need to get my
for
wife
a personal laptop.
for
Hmm.
my wife. You know, she uses a laptop for work, and I gave her my hand-me-down, my 15-inch, and she's like, "This thing's a brick," and it's not that heavy, but you know. And then she's like, "Is the 13 too big, or you know, or should I get the 11?" So, listeners, if anybody's got an 11, is that
Oh
good or
yeah.
not? Right?
Oh man, that sounds awesome. That's 1 inch shorter than my. Yeah. As I'm sure you finally remember, Matt Ray, the best laptop I ever owned, the last of the 12-inch Power Books.
Yeah, yeah. Silver pants.
Oh, so nice. That was the best laptop ever. I wrote a lot of code that probably is still in production, getting tickets opened up for BMC.
Yeah.
Lots of please advise email going on about that.
But
Maybe a
yeah,
little mib parser,
but
all
well,
sorts of stuff.
what was nice about that laptop is, you know, it was 12-inch with a full-size keyboard.
Oh
And I
yes.
think
Yeah.
I think the new MacBooks, they're 12 inches, but I think the keyboard is not full size. And so I think the 11 inch
No, that's the whole thing. It is. It is. The
is
new
it?
like the new MacBook, it is. That's the if you will, the marketing from Apple's like it's as small as it can be, but still be a full-size keyboard. And then they did that thing with to make the keys small, like they did something special to like make them, what is it? Pop. I don't know. There's some official word for that to give them the correct tactile movements.
Yeah,
So that seems like a wife target. If size and space are the issue, that seems like your target
well,
person.
so we priced out, you know, needs a bigger hard drive, needs
Oh,
needs 8 gigs of RAM. Whew,
Yeah.
8 gig,
I've
right?
been there.
And,
We've all
so,
been there. We've all been to the Apple calculator and done this.
right, right. And
It's
so
like, oh wait a minute, I was gonna spend $1,000. Now I'm spending $2,000. What
yes,
happened?
exactly.
We've
So
all
so
been there.
the
The Apple
11, the 11,
tax.
the 12, and the 13, when you get them to the same specs, are all within $100.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then,
Clearly,
but the
this is
MacBook,
not by accident either.
yeah, but the MacBook, then you also have to calculate in. I'm gonna have to buy $80 in adapters so I have a real USB connection.
mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
That's what kills it. That's
mm.
what kills it.
There
Now,
is.
how about the
There's.
Apple Care? Is Apple Care something you would still buy
Oh God,
nowadays?
I think you
that
have to.
is. I think you have
You
to.
have to.
I don't
You
buy
have
it.
to.
For, Hmm. Yeah.
You know,
Phones.
I'm a traditional Apple Care buyer because
Okay.
but I don't know if I've ever actually used it.
Have. I used it on like 2 laptops ago,
Yeah.
and I've used it on work laptop.
And so basically, you're talking about what is that? Like $300 a pop, a $600 that you blew there.
250.
So,
Yeah.
and you 250 each, right? So $500 total, right? And you've used it on 2 laptops. So I guess so, right?
Hey.
Like my general policy is that at the end of my life, if I had never bought any extended warranties, I would have a little money extra in my coffin. Or I guess my kids would have it. So it seems like my general blanket
in
policy
your
is
coffin.
never buy an extended warranty. Yeah, I'll just be holding on to it.
You know,
Right.
if you don't buy the extended warranty, you can always get a new laptop.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
See,
all
so
it
I
comes down to. That's the whole issue, Cody. It's just an insurance thing. It's like your laptop is completely broken. Okay,
fucking
that's
hate
you have to
insurance.
start, right? And then it's what are you gonna do? Are you gonna be okay going in and just immediately drop in the 1,500 on a new one? Or are you gonna be like, oh, thank God I had the Apple Care, I can get it fixed.
Yeah, because you're like,
I mean,
oh, I only have to buy a $900 laptop,
Yeah.
and when you
Like
press
this is
it
the
out,
same.
it's
This is the same
1,600.
issue with the iPhone, right? It's like if you break your iPhone, right, and you're like, okay, you can just walk in and pay $800 for a new one, or if you spend it up front, they'll give you what two new ones, under that. So it's an insurance thing. I think it's just because your whole point, if you have money left over when you die, you lose. That's my first issue. You shouldn't have any money
Suck
left.
it, kids.
You should just have a lot of debt. So it's just much easier to just be like, hey, I got it. If I need it, I got it. You're not missing that $300.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel it. Yeah, but man, listen to my phrases. When the fuck did I grow up? Anyways, yeah. So last question. So my wife, is navigating the phone upgrade. Now, I want to get y'all's advice. That we have a special circumstance, which may be something, it may be nothing. Not to be El Tony Roma, I don't know, right? But like we do have the AT&T grandfathered unlimited data plan, and so we have held on to that, I guess, since like 2008 or something. Now, there's a proviso in recent years. If you go above, I'm going to say 5 gigs a month, they send you this weird text message. They're like, "Hey, buddy, you might experience slower data." So they like add in latency. If you exceed 5 gigs, you still get unlimited data. They just slow you down. So it's not as awesome.
Have you seen that or anecdotally?
No. I mean, I've gotten that text message.
Oh, okay.
It's never happened. Like we haven't ever exceeded it. Like what'll happen is our internet will go out for like, or no, there was a period where I installed some closed
circuit upgrades.
Yeah, exactly. No, I installed some baby monitors, and they screwed with the Wi-Fi. So for several weeks before we fixed it, we were using, the LTE. And like that. Anyways, so my question is, now, here's my theory. My theory is, again, applying the anti-Brandon theory of cash retention. We should switch to T-Mobile, who will give us some confusing array of Visa cards and other things. Like once people give you Visa cards, I'm like, all right, how am I getting fucked? Right? Like this is just a complicated scheme. I used to work with a bunch of corp dev people, and it's like, that's how they fuck you. It's just like, here's some asset you don't understand. And really, that's cool. The undercoding is installed at the factory. So we should go to T-Mobile, buy our own phones up front, and then that kind of starts us fresh. We're in the hole, but we're on T-Mobile that has nationwide coverage and global coverage, basically. Data rollover, maybe spotty service. And then we just own the phones outright, and like we're off of this weird wagon of needing a spreadsheet to figure out what we should do. Because T-Mobile seems to be the most honest upfront of all the carriers.
Well, I think I do a little bit more research because I'd say like my quick analysis of that is like that's probably a good plan, but pretty much all the carriers are now going to this. Like AT&T and Verizon have they're all going away from basically subsidizing the phone to you have to buy the phone outright, and then you just select how much data you want, right? And then you can do that different ways. And then the only option is just like you're really paying for the whole thing outright. If you want, they will just bill you whatever, like $20 a month over 2 years, right? For it, you still have to pay the whole thing out. So yeah, so kind of the days, which is probably good for the United States. I think we're the last country that was doing this. Like the days of the subsidized phone are kind of done, right? You should just go buy your phone and then go pick the data plan that you like and be done with it.
Okay.
All right. And then on this is the whole thing about the data plans that everyone always like pulls out the maps. This is all you have to do. Go get the phone, take the phone to where you work, take the phone home, right? If it works well in those two places, you have adequate coverage. If it doesn't, you don't. That's it. And then you don't even need to look at the maps because like no matter where you travel, there'll be a point where your carrier is crappy because they're all have that same issue. And I do think having traveled a little internationally this year, the T-Mobile thing, the fact that you could just not have to worry about it is a pretty enticing.
It is pretty sweet. Like I have T-Mobile on my iPad, right? And that I take around with me, and it is like I mean, it's amazing. It's like, ooh, there's internet in the rest of the world now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's more fear because like when you have another like have AT&T when you're playing the plane lands, they let you turn on your phone, right? And like the first thing AT&T says is like if you use this, you're gonna owe us so much money, right? You're like almost afraid that you're like oh my god. So,
to be fair, they do have an option that you can buy like up to 30 days later. That's like a retroactive passport thing, but still, it's like.
But it's all about you, right? It's about It's about scaring you, right? Well, if you didn't make the mistake of using the phone that you have and it worked, well, then you can pay us later to not pay us so much. And just I don't know. Whereas T-Mobile just seems very upfront.
So Matt Ray, you're going to the Tokyo OpenStack.
Yep.
How are you going to handle that? What do you do for your international roaming?
I was about to weigh in on that. So AT&T used to be horrible. Now they're slightly terrible. So they actually have a fair...
Sounds like a second wife joke there.
No, well, I'm not going to go there. But the data plan used to be ridiculous. Like, for $50 you got 120 megabytes and 8 calls or something like that. And
8 calls.
now it's a little more reasonable. I think you get like, I don't know, 800 megabytes and unlimited phone and
Yep.
unlimited text for
You
like.
don't get well. Last time I got it, you get unlimited texting and MMS, which is nice, and you get what seems like a paucity. Is paucity the right word? What seems like a small amount of data, and then and then voice. There's 3 tiers. Voice is $1.50 and maybe 25 cents a minute, depending on the tier.
Yeah, but they give you a bucket of minutes to start with.
Oh, okay. They must have updated it.
Yeah, this I think. I don't remember last time I traveled international, but I was pleasantly surprised that they'd gotten better since the previous time.
Nice.
So going to Tokyo next week. I'll go in and update the family plan, and it lets you say this is just for a month, and instead of like, oh, remember that one time when you traveled for 3 days internationally and forgot to turn it off, and you got an extra $400 on your bill the next month. Yeah. So they
boom.
Apparently,
this outlines the problem. Like, Matt Ray doing justice, giving us. He even said they're slightly worse. It's like you have to do so much work in preparation to use an AT&T phone abroad. It's like,
and then
you're never sure it's right. You're never sure it's right. So highly.
And then you have to go in and because iOS, you have to individually turn off cellular data for all your apps because you can't just do all of it. And then when you come back, you have to individually go turn them back on. Like, I don't have time for that. Actually, I do, because there's lots of taxiing on runways.
Yeah. So actually, now I do remember. It was between trips in November when I went to like Europe, and April, May when I went to Vancouver. AT&T got better in that window. So and instead of being like $60 for 2 people for a week of phone, it was like $50.
So what I'm hearing is that when OpenStack finally becomes the market leader and it has fully evolved, which is fine, AT&T will also be the ideal carrier. It sounds like AT&T's international stuff tracks OpenStack pretty well.
So
yeah.
What does that make?
That's good. I think they should put that on the slide.
Yeah, I think
keynote at OpenStack. We're tracking.
You know what? If I ever start a new podcast, I'm gonna call it. You should put that on the slide. Put it on the slide.
Just incredible.
Or like, well, that's a bit of a stretch. So yeah, I'm not sure I follow that, but I'll be using my AT&T in Tokyo. But I'll still bring an unlocked phone just in case. But that was the thing. I brought an unlocked phone to Vancouver, never used it because AT&T was
fine. So when is the summit in Tokyo? Is that next week?
It is next week. I'm flying out Saturday, a little hop, skip, and a jump to Tokyo, and bringing my wife for the trip, and then going to some OpenStack meetings and doing some talking to folks, and then flying back for 48 hours and then going to London. So
hopefully you can fit some Santori time in there.
It's going to fit some Halloween time in there.
Yeah,
are you doing it all on one airline? Because like this is important to Cote and I that you aggregate status. If it isn't, we're going to have another podcast about you getting status.
I've already got status on American. I've also got it on United. So yeah, I'm flying American, then partner to Japan Airlines. So Austin to Dallas to Narita to LAX to Austin. And what's cool is like when I fly back, I leave at 5:30. I land at 7:15.
Time machine.
Time machine.
Yeah.
Well, let's not talk about the other direction.
Well, this will be fun. Like I enjoy every OpenStack summit to see the customers that come out and speak. I mean, hopefully, do they have the Walmart people scheduled to come talk more about their big cluster and things like that? Like
I don't know.
I love hearing all the new uses that are out there. It'll be nice.
Yeah, I've heard Walmart is continuing to expand and hire like crazy. What's
This is it,
interesting?
guys. I'm already gonna give. I'll give you the keynote right now. Here's a preview, guys. 2016 is the year of OpenStack. This is the year it takes off. It's gonna be huge. I mean, it's gonna display. No one's even gonna know what AWS when it's done. It's just gonna take over everything. There's gonna be OpenStack everywhere. Millions of people are gonna be using it. That's the keynote. That was what was said. So really look forward to it. Yeah. Here's the Walmart example. There's a couple other banks will show up, and then on you go. Go out and have some sake in Tokyo.
It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it.
It's
Yeah,
gonna be great. Me too.
I think what I'm looking forward to is the just the jockeying and the positioning of like, oh, we're the best OpenStack vendor, and fighting down in the muck while our
That's a good thing. So to assign you some tasks, Matt Ray.
Let me get I'm writing this down.
You're not busy.
Yeah.
I think there's two things. One, exactly what you just said. So what is the new dynamic for OpenStack distro people fighting? Because there's not that many small ones left. Like lots of people were acquired. Like, I mean, there's basically Mirantis.
There's a couple little tiny startups
and like very small ones, but like IBM snatched up Blue Box. Cloud scaling is gone. Like RedHat still has its own thing. Like
Nebula, Piston, they're all gone.
Right. So it'd be interesting to see what the not so much like what people are saying, but what that dynamic is now, right?
Yeah.
Like if people are more contentious or friendly, and how it sort of pans out. And then the second thing is like it's always interesting to see what the ancillary vendors and technologies are there, right? Like, so if you roam the expo hall, right, of OpenStack, it's interesting to see, like, I haven't been to an OpenStack summit in a while, but it seemed like everyone shows up last time I was there. I guess the last one I went to was the one in Paris. And it's interesting to know if everyone shows up or more than everyone. I don't know what that is. Infinity plus one. Or what kind of types of people show up there and what they're saying.
I think in Vancouver, everyone showed up. So there was Google was there, and that seemed confusing at the time. But they joined the foundation to spread the Kubernetes love. And then this one I've heard second, third, fourth hand that a lot of people might not be going because Tokyo's hard to get to and expensive. So. We'll see. But there's a lot of interesting talks, and I'll report back as much as I can in my without spilling
your capacity as a professional.
My conflicting interest capacity. Because I mean, what's going to be interesting? We got a little bit of news. Friday. RedHat bought Ansible, and Ansible there's a lot of Ansible talk at OpenStack, and different vendors who compete with RedHat had started to try to build things on top of that, and so that'll be entertaining.
They are quite the tower in that community, if I remember. Does that work?
Well, yeah, I don't know if the tower. I mean, I see what you did there, but but. The user surveys kind of showed that
that they're used in that area a lot, right?
Yeah. I mean, Puppet still had number one, and Ansible had moved into number two, and they'd passed Chef at number two, so we're now number three. But there's a lot of just a lot of crazy tooling.
So as an admitted competitor, more or less, to Ansible, like, how would you describe their approach to things, right? And so to give you an example, right? So Puppet is sort of like we have a DSL based on Ruby that will configure your stuff in order of execution, something or another, right?
Right.
And then Chef is like, yeah, that except Ruby in order of execution matters. I mean, I'm delightfully being short on it, but like, and then Salt Stack, if I remember, is a little more. Like Ansible and Salt both have sort of like variations on this theme that are like different. So how would you characterize like what Ansible's variation is on the theme of configuration management and automation?
So Ansible, the original author of Ansible, Michael DeHaan, who was the founding CEO, he was a product manager at Puppet Labs, and he also, I believe he did a stint at Red Hat, but I could be wrong on that. But they got a lot of Red Hat DNA at that company. And he wrote a tool previously that did SSH as a library for distributed application, provisioning, which is what Ansible does.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way Ansible works is it has a YAML-based manifest where they call them runbooks, I guess, and you say, hey, I want you to do these things in this order, and SSH to these machines, and it works well if you have fairly small, discrete, relatively small problems where you need to deploy 50 machines in a particular order, and YAML is an okay tool for writing that stuff. I mean, I've written a YAML tool myself, but it works great for small deployments, and so Ansible had really good traction in that space.
So it executes a bunch of scripts for you, and I assume passes some environment configuration between each of them, and like if you start up Node 5 and that has this IP address that goes back into the main workflow, and so you can pass that on to another one or whatever.
So, yeah, sure.
Right.
And it's Python based, and so they're like, oh well, you don't have to have an agent on the boxes as long as you have Python and SSH installed on those boxes.
Sure, just like Java.
So yeah, your agent is SSH and Python, and it sends commands across the wire that get executed by Python on the other side.
And does it like monitor configuration drift and all that kind of stuff and correct it, or so it's just a one-time configuration of something?
Pretty much. I mean,
so if you have a highly ephemeral cluster of stuff, it's dandy for that, because if your nodes are coming and going all the time, like you don't really care. You don't care as much.
Yeah. I mean, they kind of early on they talked about configuration management, and then they shifted their talk to more of orchestration. Right. And a lot of stuff is, oh, let's go deploy it and not worry about day 2 problems with it. And so it's easy for that kind of stuff, and a lot of workloads fit that pattern, or people don't have to care about day 2 problems. So deploying Docker containers or standing something up that can manage itself. It works well in those use cases.
Okay.
And so Red Hat.
So Red Hat bought them for like $100 million, right?
At least.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the numbers are. I don't know if they're totally public. I've heard 100. I've heard 150. I don't know what's real, but I don't. I guess Red Hat will have to disclose it because they're public. And Ansible had done what, $6 million in VC. So.
Oh yeah. Huh? Yeah, they're quite popular. Yeah, they rose pretty quickly. Yeah, well, that's exciting.
It is exciting.
We'll see how that pans out.
Yeah.
Yeah, one day the market that you're in, Matt Ray, it needs to have some big exits. That'll be fun to see when it finally sorts itself out, how all this happens, because this is funny.
It feels like it's about time, right? Because they had the Blade Logic, Opsware thing back in the day.
Yeah.
I think those have sufficiently aged and proven to be good cash cows. So it would seem likely with the Ansible exit, many people in M&A have updated the corporate slide deck. I feel like, Cote, there was a lot of PowerPoint updating and a lot of emails like, well, this one's gone, guys. What are we going to do?
Yep. As we like to say around here, you should put that on the slide.
Put that on the slide. And Matt Ray is just quietly over there.
Not saying anything.
Just doing his biz dev thing.
Yeah.
We should have a 2-second pause. Now everyone can just think, what would Matt Ray be thinking about this acquisition? All right, now we can move on. So
speaking of things like that, what's up with SolarWinds nowadays? I saw a rumor they halted trading because there was like rumors.
That was pretty cool. You don't normally
see
that. They actually came out, halted trading, and they announced that they were going to seek strategic alternatives. Which means
SolarWinds.
I guess that just means that someone approached them and said, we would like to buy you and make you a private company. And they said, whoa, hold on. Before you buy us, we're going to talk to other people. And so That's what I think halted the news. And then, so it's pretty clear, from what I've heard, not that I know that much, but just like they're big private equity firms that we've heard about and have been involved are, I guess, taking a serious look at what it would take to make SolarWinds private. I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, SolarWinds is, run mostly by people with strong financial backgrounds. It's basically kind of almost like a private equity roll-up that's public, if you think
Yeah.
of it the way that it kind of runs its business. So,
Well, it's basically like a mini conglomerate. Like it's like Quest. Like
yeah. Well, this is what
it's
I
a
was gonna say.
whole bunch of little apps.
Yeah, we've seen this. You've been around this industry for a while. You've seen it play out several times. The same kind of company, right? It's like first you had NetIQ, right? You get to a certain size, and you tell everyone you're going to be the next greatest systems management company, and then you slowly don't grow as fast as you want. So NetIQ eventually was purchased by Attachmate, which is like a private equity one, and then Quest kind of came in and occupied the same spot for a while. They did a bunch of acquisitions, and of course they were bought by Dell. So it seems like SolarWinds is the model, the vaunted SolarWinds model. I think is probably taking the company as far as it can go, and
It's a popular model, CA and BMC.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense for them. And I think it kind of just real simply, right? It's like the stock market does not value profitability as much as growth, as we've talked about before. So SolarWinds is a super profitable company that has, at least the stock market believes it has questionable growth model. So it does seem like the perfect thing that you would, if you're a private equity guy and you have a lot of money, go grab that. I'm sure.
Yeah, if it's spitting out if it has a lot of profit that it's spitting out, then sure, that's awesome. Then you can
I
pay
think a
off
lot
your
of
loan.
this stuff, the thing that's great about private equity is they can then reinvest those profits and things outside of SolarWinds. I think SolarWinds is sort of trying to make itself a cloud company, but I don't know. That seems like a questionable vision that they could really successfully execute on. So why not come with private equity, take all that money, and go do something else with it? It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so tough to evolve a company. That's someone ought to cover that.
Hey, someone should write a book on that. Put it on the slide. Okay. Put it on the slide.
Yeah, that'll be good old SolarWinds. I like their new offices that we were at. Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, and then we talked about Spiceworks a while back. They're another company. It'd be interesting to see what happens with them in a similar space. And I don't know how much money they pump out, but like that's we'll see how that model pans out. But there is like figuring out the model of we talk about this every now and then, but figuring out where is the ceiling of revenue for a tech company, right? Where it's just sort of like, when do you switch over to not being a crazy growth darling and you're just like normal?
Yeah.
Like that. And that when we were looking at I was thinking like, I wonder what the valuation for Ansible seems like. It's pretty high, right? And coincidentally, I saw some news that Diebold, or is it Diebold? Whatever. Big ATM vendor is put an offer to buy. It sounds like the third or fourth largest ATM vendor in the world, and they valued the company at like $8 billion, and they have $6 billion of sales. So I guess that's a point something valuation. But it is like, we're just really spoiled in the software world with the valuations we get. Like, yeah. I mean, it's like, for Christ's sake, it's the ATM market, right? And like,
it's like they're just physical, and all they can do is hand out money and buy elections
everywhere, right? Like, and like the combination, I think, would make them if I remember the article, like the biggest ATM vendor with 35% market share, and then NCR has 25%. So it's like they would be the leader, and it's a 1 point. I mean, it's just like it's so weird, like how high valued software is. And I guess it's because it gets to the thing we're talking about, like the margins on software are so high that they pump out tons of cash, but it does kind of like ruin our appreciation of things when margins are that high.
I know, Kote, you won't want to say much on it, but the EMC news this week, right? Like, one of the things that I got reminded about, and it kind of shows you, like, when these companies buy whoever, Ansible for 150 million, whoever, like, you kind of think to yourself, wow, it's a lot of valuation. You go back and you keep reading about how EMC bought VMware for, I think it was $650 million, and today I think that was conservatively valued at like 40 billion, right? And you're like, okay, so a lot. I mean, you don't have to be right that many times on these acquisitions. Pay off a lot. And That's the thing I always just think about, right? Is that, what, again, we're just talking about Ansible, but automation, right? If automation is soon to be a $40 billion market, I mean, that's probably pretty big. I don't know if it'll ever get that big, but you look at it that way, you say to yourselves, yeah, it makes a lot of sense that these established vendors will fork over some pretty serious multiples, right? Just because if they get one right, and I think, we all kind of shared, BMC Blade Logic, I know added a tremendous value to BMC when they did that one, right? And that was done at $1 billion. So, I mean, it's like I don't know, sometimes I think we remember the flame outs, but then you're like, wow, the VMware, like I said, is
Yeah, that's
probably
true.
the most successful acquisition, just
Yeah,
private wise, that I can think of. And it's pretty incredible what it did for that company.
I mean, the acquisitions are almost like, like the opposite of VC. With VC, they're like, we need, 1 in 10 to hit, and we make all our money back. And acquisitions, they need to do a little better with, but they're less likely to be just, absolute flops. I
Right then, right, you're paying that premium because they've established something. They're always
yeah.
bringing some level of customers and some revenue stream. But then you think to yourself, like, I think VMware, back to the theme of the show, VMware is actually someone who actually made the projections that were on the slide before the acquisition, right? They're like, whoa, this actually did grow that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, just stuff to keep in mind.
Yep.
Big week.
So speaking of acquisitions, EMC Dell bought something. They bought themselves some EMC. So do all the little, how does that work? Like, has that been approved? When does it finally happen?
Well, listen, I'll tell you one detail, and then you guys can talk about it as much as you want.
You could talk about things that like are publicly mentioned.
Yeah. So there's a I haven't gone and calculated the number of days left, but there's a 60-day go shop period, and having worked on the periphery of deals like this, I mean, if you remember the Quest acquisition, there was also a go shop period. And I don't know if it was 60 days, but basically it's just they're soliciting bids from other people. And if I remember, after that 60 days, the deal is basically done, probably pending some sort of regulatory approval or something. But that's pretty much it. That's the constraints.
All right, so we have 50, I don't know, 50 plus days left to see if it comes out. I mean, it does seem I mean, I'm sure they, as I read in the various press, is that they put the Go Shop in as almost like a vote of confidence that this is such a good deal. That's fine. If you can go find a better deal, we'll listen. But we believe we want our shareholders to approve this, and we want them to know that we've made every effort to get a better deal. I think, I mean, at this size, I mean, I think it's the largest acquisition, at least software. Like,
Yeah, the largest software. I think the AOL Time Warner was bigger.
Yeah, I mean, there's.
But they were like, that's not really software.
I was gonna say your Go Shop is like, I think 3 phone calls. I don't think there's that many. It's not that many people that can probably take on an acquisition of this size. I mean, I guess there's other private.
There's bound to be. Yeah, I was about to say other PE firms can easily.
It's a lot, though. I think
easily.
I do think it all could kind of start from other thing. It's like at the end of the day, it seems like real simple. Like EMC has an activist shareholder. They have to do something. It feels like this is the best that they can come up with. And VMware is ultimately the true prize of this acquisition. Like, you could almost see, if you're just doing financially, you'd be like, well, let's get all this stuff private. Let's straighten it out. And then one day, VMware is spun out officially. All its value is spun out, and the Dell private equity contingent makes a tremendous amount of money out of that. That would be like, if you're just running a hedge fund or running it financially, you would do that. And then all the other stuff, I don't know, man. They seem to have everything, like security. That's the area I'm in. So they obviously own RSA, which is like a massive company in itself. But it's just one of the many things inside of Dell. So I can only imagine the amount of PowerPoint slides are being updated. I mean,
there's no
I would
keynote
conservatively say 4 million PowerPoint slides are being created. It's always the same thing. It's like, yeah, I know we have overlap here, but we're all going to it's going to work out. The teams are going to merge, and it's just going to be one big happy product family, which will definitely not happen. So I look forward to hearing all about that in the coming weeks.
Luckily, we have a man on the inside.
That's right. I did, but I did look. I went to Pivotal because I was like, oh, what happens to Pivotal? I was like, well, they updated the homepage. At least they're on there. I was like, okay, cool. Good to see Pivotal out there.
Whew, good times.
Good times. All right, Cote, you're back in.
All right. We didn't even have to pay Mexican hat dance music there, so we're safe.
We're safe. We made it. We made it through.
I control the input and output. So speaking of Apple, did you see that story about IBM, like reducing their help desk calls? Do you use a Mac at work, Brandon?
Sadly, not yet. Soon,
Yeah.
one day. But yeah, I saw that. This is a lot easier to support. I guess so says the study.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. I even wrote in the show the show notes. What do we make of the IBM using Apple laptop story? I think the answer is like, yep. Welcome to the party.
Yeah. Well, coming back to the conversation about buying a new laptop, my wife was like, "Well, they have these, $299, Windows laptops," and I was like, "Nope." It's just like, that's just. It's foreign now. I mean, it's just, there's just cannot make that jump back of having to support a bunch of stuff that breaks all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was at Dell, I used Windows a lot, but the way I used it was I just never really used it. Which is to say, like, I tried to like not really focus on the Windows part at all, and it just I stayed in the browser. I guess I had to use Outlook, which is interesting. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it, Matt. Right? It is very foreign. When I see someone who has a Surface laptop, I always think like, what are they doing? Why would you do that? But I don't know.
I do, but my wife works in education, which is really like the other end of technology, and it's like she wanted to create something like, and she wanted Word or whatever, and she has a Mac and she has it on there, but it's just amazing. She just like the familiarity of Windows. So we have this old Windows machine that we just have, and it just it's kind of just a little kiosk. And so she goes, when she does stuff like that, she goes to that. And I don't know, it's gonna be a while, right, before the world, the Midwest, I'd say, the whole Midwest, all our friends out there, right? It's like it's gonna be a while before that's not the first thing that those guys have reach for when they need something, right? Clearly the coast, most technology companies have migrated to Mac, but it's a long way to getting it all figured out.
I don't even know if it's most. I think it's about appearances. You looking for Dell?
Oh no, my wife says that she's pulling out of the garage, and she wants me to make sure that she doesn't hit my car, which is in the driveway.
Good thing. Yeah, the window's closed. You're looking through the blinds. You're gonna stop her from hitting.
Like you're gonna have minimal impact on the outcome of that.
I mean, it's like, yeah, this is real life right here, happening right now.
Yes.
Wow, she's backing out really slowly. Taking a 60-day go shop period on getting out of this driveway. Looks good. I'm gonna write her. Looks good. Looks good. It's backing up. Looks good.
What do you
guys think of that? Yeah, I'm texting her. I can't talk to her. I'm a professional, Matt Ray. Yep. Okay. Good.
Yes.
Looks good. Oh yeah, she's got it.
All right.
Woo! Well, this has been one of the more exciting episodes we've ever recorded. It is upsetting that I have to self-censor myself from commenting on all the exciting news, but that's life.
Such is life. Yeah.
How about we go into recommendations?
All right.
You guys got anything else you want to go over?
No. Let's get to recommendations.
All right. Well, I'll go first since I was entertaining everyone with that backing up experience. So I finished reading this book that a Gartner analyst wrote called The Wolf in CIO Clothing. Now, I always like very pragmatic advice about things. And the premise of this book, I think it's only like 80 pages or something, which is, I think that's the new perfect size for a book, like a business book. She basically like takes a bunch of Machiavelli stuff and applies that kind of thinking to being a CIO and managing it. And the next thing that she has is a pinwheel which kind of puts a pin in the bombacity of animals. And so there's on one side there's the dark side. There's the, let's see if I can remember, the shark, the snake, and the I always forget the other one. There's another one that's like the lion, right? And it's like these are modes of operating. Like the shark destroys everything. The snake is like duplicitous and mischievous, and so forth and so on. And then on the other end are like the peaceful ways: the lamb, the dove, and the dolphin. Right? Like the lamb, everyone likes the lamb, so it's likable. So that's how the lamb's the opposite of a snake, and then the dolphin's an opposite of a shark. Like a dolphin is very collaborative and nice. And anyways, but in the middle, she has a wolf who sort of like can draw on both of these skills equally as the situation warrants. And it's just a nice overview of when you should be mean and when you should be nice and stuff like that in the context of being CIO stuff. And it's a lot better than it's not like a halo effect type of thing. Like a halo effect book is like, these guys are a bunch of idiots, right? Like here's how everyone gets all excited about like good things that happen. It's basically like sometimes good things happen and sometimes bad things happen. And here's different coping mechanisms for being a CIO in those situations. It's a nice book. How about yourself, Brandon?
I was going to go the book route as well and recommend a book I read about the financial crisis, but more importantly, it's called a book about, I guess, Fannie and Freddie Mae. So they are the government, quasi-governmental institutions that back the mortgages of the United States. And it's pretty, I mean, it's not super long, which is what I like about books, because I think Cote said it's like most people only have a little bit to say, but they've always been 200 pages. So just make it less. Don't
hard to sell a pamphlet.
Yeah, but just actually, I think it's even better now. Just like don't make it too long. So anyway, it's a quick read about what these institutions do, but more importantly, I always like, and maybe our listeners will feel this way. It's like at many places I have worked or I see, and we've been talking about acquisitions. There's all these like mechanics behind the scenes that like people talk about but don't fully understand. And so this is sort of like, you think you understand the mortgage industry and how it works and why we have 30-year mortgages, but then you read this book and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I don't really understand any of that. So I like when people take big systems apart and kind of explain the black boxes. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you're interested in finance and like what goes on in the world of finance behind the scenes, you'll enjoy it.
So why do we have 30-year mortgages?
Well, if you read the book, it will basically say like United States, only one other country has them, and we have become a country, a nation that basically feels entitled to a 30-year mortgage rate. But what you learn in the book is that 30-year mortgage rates that are fixed are really good for consumers, but are really, really bad for investors. And that's where, so how do you fix that? Well, you create quasi-government institutions that they don't stand behind them, but they stand behind them, right? They talked about like there's like this implicit, well, we all want this, and even though we say that the government won't stand in when it has to, we know the government will. So it creates this like really intellectual, dishonest but honest kind of thing. So if you're kind of interested in that and like what happens, it is a pretty interesting read.
So are 30-year mortgages not profitable for loaners because they're just not profitable enough?
Yeah, because they say the reason is volatility, right? That over a 30-year period, there'll be a tremendous volatility. So if you have to hold that investment the entire time, right? Like there may be a time interest rates are really, really high, really, really low, but you're stuck holding this. So you have potentially a really an asset that isn't very valuable, but you're forced into it. But then you as the person owning the home, just paying off the mortgage, you love it. You're like, yeah, every month is the same. I don't have to worry. I don't have to, I'm totally divorced from the bond market and the realities of what's going on. And the reason that is the government has basically stepped in and subsidized that for us all. So
right.
No more, read the book.
Yeah. How about yourself, Matt?
Well, I've got 2 picks. The first is an article that was in Wired called "The Walking Dead" about the current state of the tech industry. Go read it, draw your own conclusions, but it's very entertaining, and I've heard a lot of people talking about it out of the context, not just not just our little circle of friends, but people who've read it start, talking about it. And I was at another conference where people were like, "Oh, did you read that article?" And hey, what did you think about this? And just one of those, kind of level sets for thinking about the software industry in general. But and then the other thing is a little more lighthearted. It's a testing library called VW. As you might recall, Volkswagen's been in the news, had a little bit of testing problems. Well, this library solves their testing problems. It's extensions for your CI infrastructure that notice that when your unit tests are being run in a testing infrastructure like Jenkins, make sure they always pass. and so it actually investigates environmental variables and says, "Yep, all the tests are green," and my beloved nerds out there have taken it to multiple languages, and so everybody can have their tests always pass whenever they're being monitored.
I see. Wow. That's a joke right there.
That is a joke, but people keep going with it. It's like, oh yeah, we got Ruby, we got C#, we got C++, we got PHP. Don't let the joke die, people.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, when someone was covering that, it made me, like one bad event to sort of like defraud stuff. Oh, who's our mystery guest there?
We got to wrap it up.
Anyhow, but yeah, it makes you wonder how many other uses of that library are out there. Good times. Yep. All right. Well, as always, thanks for listening. We're at softwaredefinedtalk.com, where you can find the podcast. And if you want to see the show notes, what is this, episode 47? You can go to kote.io/SDT47. And you can also find a link to get some free usage of Pivotal Web Services, so you can try out the cloud platform that we have. You can go to the show notes or go to kote.io/pivotal and sign up for it. You also get a free book there, all sorts of stuff. You have anything you want to flog, Matt Ray?
Use the discount code software for the Chef Community Summit in London. Save you some money.
We've heard people have been using that, so that's fantastic.
Yep.
Yes. All right. Well, with that, we'll see everyone next time.
Bye.